Most people don't ruin their savings by buying something stupid. They ruin them much earlier than that. They ruin them when they give the same pile of money too many jobs. One part of them wants to pay debt. One part wants to keep cash. One part wants to invest. One part wants to feel safe. And one part is terrified that if they choose wrong, they'll end up back at zero. That is the real problem. Not that people are lazy, not that they don't care, not even that they need one magical number in their bank account. The problem is that modern money has too many responsibilities, and most people are trying to make one pile of savings do all of them at once. And once that happens, every option feels wrong. If you keep it in cash, it feels like the money is sitting there doing nothing. If you invest it, it feels like you might need it at the worst possible time. If you pay debt, it feels smart until one emergency hits and you have no cushion left. And if you split it randomly, it feels responsible, but somehow nothing actually feels solved. That's why this decision is so stressful. Because the question is not just, should I pay debt, hold cash, or invest? The better question is, what job does this money need to do first? I'm the financial squirrel. And in this video, I'm going to show you why the biggest mistake is not choosing the wrong thing. It's choosing in the wrong order. Because money only starts feeling powerful when every dollar has the right job. Let's start with the uncomfortable part. A lot of people are not as financially protected as they look. Some have savings, some have income, some have a normal life from the outside. But underneath that, the margin is thin. The Federal Reserve reported that only a little over half of adults had enough rainy day savings to cover 3 months of expenses, and Bankrate found that nearly a quarter of Americans had no emergency savings at all. That means the problem is not just poverty. The problem is fragility. A person can have money in the bank and still be fragile. A person can have investments and still be fragile. A person can be making progress and still feel like one bad month could reset everything. That is why the order matters. Because the first job of money is not always to grow. Sometimes the first job of money is to stop your life from breaking when something ordinary goes wrong. And that's where a lot of financial advice gets too simple. Some people say, just invest as early as possible. Other people say, pay off all debt first. Other people say, keep a huge emergency fund, and each one can be right in the right situation. But each one can also be wrong if it happens in the wrong order. Because money is not one thing. Money has different jobs. Some money is protection, some money is defense, some money is opportunity, some money is freedom. And if you confuse those jobs, even a smart move can make your life feel worse. Think of your money like a decision map, not a pile, a map. The first zone is survival. The second zone is stability. The third zone is flexibility. The fourth zone is growth. Most people want to jump straight to growth because growth is exciting, investing feels productive, watching your money work feels smarter than watching it sit. But if you jump to growth before survival is protected, you are not building wealth. You are building stress with a brokerage account attached to it. That sounds harsh, but it's true. If your car breaks or your hours get cut, or a medical bill appears, or a move comes earlier than expected, and the only money you have is invested for the long term, then that money is not really long-term money, it's emergency money wearing an investment costume, and that is dangerous, not because investing is bad, investing is important. But time horizon matters, risk matters, liquidity matters, and your nervous system matters too. Because if you invest money that your life might need soon, you're not just taking market risk, you're taking panic risk. Panic risk is when you make a good plan on a calm day. Then abandon it on a bad day because the money was never truly available to lose time. That's why the first question is not, how do I make the highest return? The first question is, what would force me to undo this plan? That question changes everything, because if one unexpected expense would force you to sell investments, or borrow again, or miss payments, then your first priority is not maximum growth. Your first priority is shock absorption, not forever. Not because cash is magical, but because without shock absorption, everything else becomes fragile. Now let's talk about debt. Debt creates a different kind of pressure, especially expensive debt, because expensive debt does not just take money, it takes margin, it takes options, it takes future income before you even receive it. That is why paying debt can be one of the most powerful things you do. But here's the mistake people make. They attack debt so aggressively that they destroy their cushion. They empty the bank account to feel like they made progress, and for 1 week, it feels amazing. The balance goes down. The spreadsheet looks cleaner. The decision feels responsible. Then life happens, something breaks, income changes, a bill lands at the wrong time. And because there is no cash buffer left, they use the same debt again. Now they are not really out of debt. They are just cycling between panic payments and panic borrowing. That is not a plan. That is a loop. So the goal is not always pay every dollar of debt as fast as possible. The better goal is pay debt without making yourself financially naked. There is a difference, because the best plan is not the plan that looks strongest on paper. It is the plan you can survive in real life. Now cash has its own trap. Cash feels safe. And in the short term it is. Cash gives you breathing room. Cash lets you wait. Cash gives you options. Cash helps you avoid turning every small problem into a financial emergency. But too much cash without a purpose can also become a hiding place. Some people are not holding cash because they have a clear short-term need. They're holding cash because they are afraid to decide, afraid to invest, afraid to pay debt and lose flexibility, afraid that whatever they do will be wrong. So the money just sits there, not protecting clearly, not growing meaningfully, not paying down pressure, just waiting for clarity that never comes. That is why the answer is not simply, cash is good or cash is bad. The answer is, cash needs a job. Emergency cash has a job. Short-term goal cash has a job. Monthly buffer cash has a job. But vague cash, cash that is just sitting there because you are overwhelmed, that is usually a sign that the system is unclear. And this is where most people get stuck. They ask one question, what should I do with my money? But they need to ask 5 smaller questions. First, could one normal emergency force me to borrow? If yes, some money needs to become protection. Second, am I carrying debt that is more expensive than any realistic return I'm chasing? If yes, some money needs to become defense. Third, will I need this money soon for a real-life goal? A move, a wedding, a home deposit, a job transition, a baby, a major repair? If yes, that money should not pretend to be long-term investment money. Fourth, do I already have enough cushion to avoid panic? If yes, now growth starts making more sense. And fifth, am I making this choice from a plan or from anxiety? That last one matters more than people admit, because anxiety makes people overcorrect. They pay too much debt and leave no cash, or they hold too much cash and never build, or they invest too early and spend the whole time worrying, or they do a little of everything, but not enough of anything. The solution is not to become perfect. The solution is to give the money an order. Here is the order that makes the most sense for most people. Not as personal financial advice, not as a perfect rule for every life, but as a decision framework. First, protect the next problem. This is the small cushion that stops one ordinary expense from becoming a crisis. It does not have to be glamorous. It does not have to be huge. Its job is simple, keep you from being forced into bad decisions. Second, attack the pressure that is actively draining you. That usually means expensive debt, not because all debt is evil, but because expensive debt quietly eats the future before you get to use it. Third, build real runway, not just a random number, runway. How much time can your life keep going if income gets interrupted? That answer is different for a single person with stable work, a couple with one income, a freelancer, a parent, or someone in an unstable industry. This is why 3 months or 6 months should not be treated like magic. The real question is, how much time would actually make my decisions calmer? Fourth, separate near-term money from long-term money. This is where a lot of people make mistakes. They mix emergency savings, vacation money, home money, investment money, and random leftover money, all in the same mental bucket. And because it is all mixed together, they never know what the money is allowed to do. So they feel guilty using it, scared investing it, and confused watching it sit. Separate the jobs. Emergency money is not investment money. Short-term goal money is not retirement money. Long-term money should not be the money you might need next month. That separation alone can make your financial life feel cleaner. Fifth, then build growth. Now investing makes more sense because the money you invest is not secretly your emergency fund. It is not secretly next month's rent. It is not secretly the money you need for a move. It is long-term capital, and long-term capital has one major advantage. It has time. Time to recover, time to compound, time to survive volatility, time to actually do its job. That is the part people miss. Investing is not just about risk tolerance, it is about job clarity. Money with a short-term job needs safety. Money with a long-term job can accept more uncertainty. Money with no clear job creates anxiety. So when people ask, should I pay debt, hold cash, or invest? The real answer is usually yes, but not all at once, and not in a random order. Hold enough cash so life does not push you into panic. Pay the debt that is stealing your margin. Separate the money you will need soon. Then invest the money that truly has time. That is the difference between having savings and having a system. Savings are a balance. A system is a structure. Savings can disappear. A system tells you why the money is there, what job it has, and when it can move. And that is what creates peace. Not just a bigger number, clarity. Because the real goal is not to make your bank account look impressive for 1 month. The real goal is to make your money less confused. A confused dollar gets pulled in 5 directions. A clear dollar does one job well. That is the shift. And once you understand it, you stop asking, what is the perfect thing to do with my money? And you start asking, what is the next correct job this money needs to do? That question is calmer. That question is more useful. And that question keeps you from turning a good financial decision into a fragile one. So if you have finally started saving even a little, do not rush to prove that you are smart with money. First, make sure the money is protected. Then make sure it is not being eaten alive by expensive debt. Then make sure your short-term goals are not hiding inside your emergency fund. Then give your long-term money permission to grow. That is how savings becomes stability. That is how stability becomes confidence. And that is how confidence becomes wealth. Not overnight, not magically, not through one perfect move, but through the right order. I'm the Financial Squirrel, and remember, most people just save nuts, but here, we grow forests. If this video made the money order finally click for you, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.